Homeless man returns millionaire's lost ring, then reveals he was his childhood protector. Sophia Lane felt the familiar tension coiling in her shoulders as she exited the tense budget meeting. Running Lane Fine Jewelry, the company her late father had built from a single workshop into a nationally respected brand, was both her greatest pride and her heaviest burden. Every decision, every quarterly report, every new design felt weighed against his legacy, against the memory of his passion and integrity. Today, the pressure felt particularly acute. Projections were slightly down, competition was fierce, and the board was restless. She bypassed her spacious, elegant office, needing air, needing perspective. Grabbing her coat, she murmured to her assistant, "Nina, I'm stepping out for 30 minutes. Hold my calls." Outside, the crisp autumn air of downtown Chicago offered a welcome contrast to the stuffy boardroom. She instinctively headed towards the green oasis of Millennium Park, just a few blocks away. It was a habit inherited from her father, seeking clarity amidst the city's hustle. As she walked, her fingers traced the familiar smoothness of the ring she wore on her right hand. It wasn't the largest or most valuable piece she owned, far from it. It was a simple, wide gold band, worn smooth over decades. It had been her father's 20th anniversary gift to her mother, a custom piece symbolizing their enduring partnership. After her mother passed 2 years ago, followed heartbreakingly by her father just 6 months later, the ring had come to Sophia. It was more than gold. It was history, love, connection, her most treasured possession, a tangible link to the two people she missed more than words could say. Wearing it grounded her, reminded her of the foundation upon which her own life and career were built. She needed that grounding today. Finding a relatively secluded bench near the serene Lurie Garden, she sat down, pulling her coat tighter against the breeze off Lake Michigan. She closed her eyes, trying to untangle the knots of financial data and strategic planning in her mind, seeking the quiet strength the ring always seemed to offer. After perhaps 15 minutes, the chill began to seep in, and the temporary peace started to fray as work anxieties resurfaced. Sophia sighed, pushing herself up from a bench. Time to head back, face the music. She glanced at her watch, then instinctively reached to adjust the ring on her finger, a nervous habit. Her fingers met bare skin. She froze. Her heart gave a sickening lurch. She looked down at her hand. Empty. The ring wasn't there. Panic, cold and sharp, seized her. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "No, no, no." Her eyes darted around the bench, the pavement beneath it, the surrounding patch of grass. Nothing. She dropped to her knees, heedless of her expensive trousers, frantically patting the ground, scanning every fallen leaf, every pebble. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. Where could it be? Had it slipped off while she was sitting? While she was walking? She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to pinpoint the exact moment she last felt its familiar weight. Had she fiddled with it? Taken it off absent-mindedly? No, she never took it off, especially not outside. Tears blurred her vision, tears of panic, frustration, and a swiftly rising tide of grief. Losing that ring felt like losing her parents all over again. It was their story, their symbol, entrusted to her. How could she have been so careless? She scrambled back towards the path she had taken from her office building, her eyes scanning the ground obsessively, ignoring the curious glances of passersby. She retraced every step, her search growing more desperate, more frantic. She asked a couple walking nearby, a maintenance worker sweeping leaves, "Did you see a ring?" "A plain gold band." They shook their heads sympathetically. An hour passed in a blur of fruitless searching. The initial panic subsided into a heavy, crushing despair. The ring was gone, lost somewhere in the vastness of the park, swallowed by the city. It felt irreplaceable, not because of its monetary value, but because of the memories, the love it held. Heartbroken, Sophia finally sank onto another bench, burying her face in her hands, the weight of legacy suddenly overshadowed by the sharp pain of immediate personal loss. Sam Jenkins watched the well-dressed woman's frantic search from his usual bench across the path. He'd seen her arrive earlier, sitting quietly, looking stressed. Now, she was clearly distraught, scanning the ground like she'd lost something precious. He knew that look. He'd lost things himself, not jewelry, but stability, family, hope. Sam spent most of his days in the park. It was open, relatively safe, and offered a constant parade of life that kept the crushing loneliness at bay, mostly. Nights were harder, spent seeking shelter under bridges or in doorways, always vigilant, always moving. At 42, his face was weathered beyond his years, his clothes worn but clean. He made an effort with the facilities at a local shelter when he could. He carried his few possessions in a battered backpack. Homelessness had stripped away much, but Sam clung fiercely to his quiet dignity and a keen sense of observation honed by years on the street. Earlier, not long after the woman had first sat down, Sam had noticed a small glint of yellow near the leg of her bench as he walked past. Curious, he bent down. It was a ring, a simple, wide gold band. It felt heavy, solid. No stones, but clearly quality craftsmanship, softened and worn with time. It looked like something cherished, something worn daily for years. He'd immediately thought it must belong to the woman on the bench. He could have pawned it, easily. It would have meant a warm motel room for a few nights, several hot meals. The temptation gnawed at him, a familiar battle between desperation and principle. But looking at the ring, feeling its history, imagining the panic someone would feel upon losing it, he couldn't do it. His parents, gone now for 2 decades but still vivid in his memory, had raised him better than that. So, he'd slipped the ring into his pocket and positioned himself on his usual bench across the way, figuring the woman would realize her loss eventually and return. He waited patiently, watching the ebb and flow of park life, the ring a heavy weight both physical and moral in his pocket. Now, seeing her distress, he knew he'd made the right decision. He waited for a moment when she paused in her search, looking utterly defeated, before he slowly got up and approached her. Sam approached Sophia cautiously. He knew his appearance, shabby clothes, unshaven face, the general weariness of life on the streets often made people wary, even fearful. He didn't want to startle her further. He stopped a respectful few feet away. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, his voice quiet, a little rough from disuse. Sophia looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and filled with despair. Seeing Sam, she initially registered him only as another stranger, perhaps someone asking for money. She braced herself slightly. "I saw you searching earlier," Sam continued gently, holding out his hand, palm up. Resting in the center was the smooth gold band, glinting softly in the afternoon light. "Were you looking for this?" Sophia stared at the ring, then at Sam's face, then back at the ring. Disbelief warred with a surge of overwhelming relief. "My ring," she whispered, her voice choked. "Oh my God, my ring." Tears spilled anew, but this time they were tears of profound gratitude. She reached out with trembling fingers and took the ring, clutching it tightly in her palm, as if afraid it might vanish again. It felt warm from his hand. "Thank you," she sobbed, looking up at Sam, truly seeing him for the first time, the kindness in his tired eyes, the gentleness in his demeanor despite his rough appearance. "Thank you so much. I thought it was gone forever." It was my father's. It means everything to me. She fumbled in her purse, pulling out her wallet. Please, let me give you something. A reward. Anything. You have no idea. She started pulling out bills, 50s, hundreds, far more than the ring's material value, driven by sheer relief and gratitude. Sam held up a hand, shaking his head gently. No. Thank you, ma'am, Sam said quietly, taking a small step back from the proffered cash. That's not necessary. I'm just glad it found its way back to you. Sophia paused, surprised by his refusal. But please, she insisted, holding out the money again. You returned something incredibly precious to me. I want to thank you properly. Sam offered a small, sad smile, a flicker of something wistful in his eyes. He looked at her more closely, as if searching her face. It's okay, really, he repeated softly. Then, he hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features before he seemed to make a decision. It's okay. Sophia. Hearing her name spoken by this stranger startled her. How'd he know her name? Had he seen her before? Was he someone who followed the society pages or business news? Before she could ask, Sam continued, his voice barely above a whisper, filled with a strange mix of nostalgia and sorrow. I used to look out for you a long time ago. Don't you remember? Sophia frowned, confused. Looked out for me? I'm sorry, I don't. By the old oak tree, Sam prompted gently, his eyes fixed on hers. Back at Washington Elementary School. You were small, maybe second grade. Always had bright ribbons in your hair. He offered another faint, sad smile. I'm Samuel Jenkins. People call me Sam. The name, the school, the oak tree. It was like a key turning in a long-locked door deep within Sophia's memory. Samuel Jenkins. Sam. Sophia stared at the man before her, the name echoing in her mind. Samuel Jenkins. Sam. Suddenly, the image of the weary, homeless man flickered, superimposed with another image, hazy at first, then sharpening into focus. A lanky boy, maybe 12 or 13 years old, with serious eyes and perpetually untied sneakers. Washington Elementary. Second grade. She had been painfully shy, small for her age, an easy target for the rougher kids on the playground. There was one group in particular, older boys, who seemed to delight in taunting her, pulling her hair ribbons, knocking her books out of her hands. She remembered the fear, the helplessness. And then she remembered him. Sam. He wasn't one of her classmates. He was older, maybe 5th or 6th grade. He wasn't loud or aggressive. He would just appear. Whenever the bullies started circling, Sam would quietly materialize, positioning himself between them and her. He rarely said much. Sometimes just a quiet, firm, leave her alone. Sometimes he wouldn't even speak, just stand there, a silent, unwavering presence, until the other boys backed off, grumbling. He never asked for thanks. He never tried to talk to her much afterwards. He would just give her a brief, reassuring nod and melt back into the playground crowd. But his presence had been a shield, a small island of safety in the often intimidating world of elementary school. She remembered feeling a profound sense of gratitude towards her silent protector. She remembered drawing him a picture, once a thank you note, with a lopsided drawing of him standing tall, like a superhero, next to a much smaller figure with bright hair ribbons. She'd shyly slipped it into his hand one afternoon. He'd looked surprised, then tucked it carefully into his pocket with a rare, small smile. Then, midway through her 3rd grade year, her father's business took off. Her family moved across town to a bigger house, a different school district. She never saw Sam again. She hadn't thought about him in years, decades, even. The memory had faded, buried under layers of adolescence, college, career, grief, and responsibility. Until now. Sam? She whispered again, the name feeling real on her tongue this time. She looked into his eyes, searching past the weariness, the hardship etched there. And she saw him. The quiet intensity, the inherent kindness, it was still there. "It really is you." Sam offered a small, confirming nod, his gaze dropping slightly, perhaps uncomfortable under her sudden, intense scrutiny. The years melted away, leaving only the stark reality of the present. The successful businesswoman and the homeless man who had once been her childhood guardian. "I can't believe it," Sophia stammered, struggling to reconcile the boy from her memories with the man standing before her. "After all these years, Sam, what happened?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken inquiries about the vast gulf between his past kindness and his present circumstances. Sam sighed, a deep, weary sound. He ran a hand over his rough beard, his gaze distant for a moment as he gathered his thoughts. "Life happens, I guess," he began quietly, his voice low and gravelly. "Not long after you moved away, maybe when I was starting high school, things started to go wrong. My mom got sick, really sick. Cancer." He paused, the memory clearly still painful. "My dad and I, we did everything we could. Doctors, treatments, it used up all their savings. She fought hard, but she passed away when I was 17. Sophia's heart clenched. "Oh, Sam, I'm so sorry." He gave a slight nod, acknowledging her sympathy, but continuing his story. "My dad, he was never the same after that. He was heartbroken. Tried to keep working, he was a mechanic, good with his hands, but his heart wasn't in it. He started drinking more. Then, about a year and a half later, there was an accident at the garage. Faulty equipment, they said. He was gone just like that." Sam fell silent, the weight of losing both parents, so young, evident in his posture. "I was 19, he continued softly. "No other family around, really. A distant aunt somewhere, but we weren't close. There was mortgage debt, medical bills left over the house, got foreclosed. I tried," he insisted, a flicker of defiance in his voice. "Got a job at a warehouse. Found a cheap room to rent. But the grief, it was overwhelming. Some days I could barely get out of bed. Depression, I guess they call it now. Didn't have a name for it then, just felt heavy. Lost the job. Couldn't pay the rent. One thing led to another." He gestured vaguely at himself, at his surroundings. "Been like this for a long time now. You drift. You lose track of things. Of yourself." He looked back at Sophia, a faint, almost embarrassed smile touching his lips. "It's funny, though. Sometimes when things got really bad, I'd remember that little girl with the hair ribbons. How scared you looked, and how fierce you tried to be anyway. And that drawing you gave me." He shook his head slightly. "Kept it for years, till I lost almost everything else. Just a small thing, but remembering that I helped someone once, it helped me feel like maybe I wasn't completely worthless. A little bit of light, you know?" Sophia listened, her initial shock replaced by a wave of profound sadness and empathy. Sam's quiet recitation of his misfortunes, delivered without self-pity but heavy with resignation, painted a devastating picture of loss, grief, and a slow slide into despair. To think that the kind, protective boy she remembered had endured so much, alone it was heartbreaking. And to hear that the memory of her, of his simple act of childhood kindness, had been even a small comfort to him during his darkest times, it struck a deep chord within her. Tears streamed unchecked down her face now, blurring the image of the man before her. Tears for the boy he had been, for the man he had become, for the hardship he had suffered, and for the unexpected reconnection across the chasm of years and circumstance. The immense relief of having her father's ring returned was now inextricably intertwined with the sorrow of Sam's story. Impulsively, overriding any thought of social distance or propriety, Sophia stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Sam in a tight hug. He stiffened for a moment, clearly unused to such contact, then slowly, hesitantly, relaxed into the embrace, his own shoulders slumping slightly as if releasing a long-held tension. "Oh, Sam," she whispered fiercely into his worn jacket, which smelled faintly of dust and cold air. "I'm so sorry for everything you've been through. So incredibly sorry." She held him for a long moment, feeling the fragile humanity beneath the layers of hardship. When she finally pulled back, her resolve was firm. Gratitude demanded more than just words. His past kindness demanded a present response. "You can't stay out here," she said, her voice thick with emotion but regaining some of its characteristic decisiveness. "Not another night. Please, Sam, let me help you. Come with me now. Let me get you a decent meal, a real, hot meal, and a warm place to stay tonight. Please, let me do this." She looked into his eyes, willing him to accept, needing to offer something tangible against the weight of his struggles. "You looked out for me when I was small and scared," she added softly. "Let me look out for you now." Sam looked taken aback by her insistence, by the raw emotion in her voice. He hesitated, pride warring with exhaustion and the undeniable appeal of her offer. He hadn't accepted charity often, finding it difficult, but there was something different in Sophia's plea, a genuine connection, a debt acknowledged across decades. After a moment, he gave a slow, weary nod. "Okay, Sophia," he murmured. "Okay." Relief washed over Sophia. "Okay," she echoed, managing a watery smile. "Good. Come on." She hailed a taxi, ignoring Sam's hesitation about getting into the clean vehicle. She directed the driver to a modest but clean and reputable hotel near her office building, a place where Sam wouldn't feel unduly conspicuous or uncomfortable. During the ride, she discreetly called her assistant, Nina. "Nina, I need you to do something for me," quietly. "Arrange for a room at the Ashton Hotel for a friend. Prepay for a week. And could you possibly pick up some essentials toiletries, a few changes of clothes, size large, maybe some sturdy shoes? Nothing fancy, just practical. Use the company card. I'll sort it later. Have them delivered to the hotel under my name." At the hotel, Sophia checked Sam in, ensuring the room was comfortable and quiet. She ordered room service, a hearty meal of pot roast, mashed potatoes, and vegetables comfort food. As Sam ate, slowly at first, then with growing appetite, Sophia watched him, her mind working. She needed to do more than provide a temporary fix. Sam needed stability, opportunity, a path back. As they talked more over dinner, Sam hesitantly sharing bits about his past jobs, his enjoyment of methodical work, his reliability before depression took hold, an idea began to form. Lane Fine Jewelry had a large, secure warehouse facility on the outskirts of the city, managing inventory, shipping, and receiving. It required trustworthy, meticulous people. "Sam," Sophia began carefully, after he had finished eating and seemed more relaxed. "What you did today returning my ring when you could have easily sold it, that showed incredible integrity. The same integrity you showed back when we were kids." Sam looked down, uncomfortable with the praise. "My company," Sophia continued, "we always need reliable people. People we can trust, especially handling valuable inventory. We have a large warehouse operation." She leaned forward slightly. "It's not glamorous work, Sam. Sorting, checking inventory lists, packing, keeping things organized. But it's steady. It pays decently. It requires attention to detail and honesty, things you clearly have." She paused, gauging his reaction. "I have an opening for an inventory assistant. It's an entry-level position, but it's a start. A proper job. Something to build on." She met his gaze directly. Would you be interested in that, Sam? If you feel ready." Sam looked stunned by the offer. A real job? After so long? He stared at Sophia, searching her face. He saw no pity, only a straightforward, respectful offer based on her assessment of his character, both past and present. He thought about the years adrift, the gnawing emptiness. This was a lifeline, a chance he hadn't dared to hope for. "Yes," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Sophia, I would. Very much." A genuine smile lit up Sophia's face. "Good," she said warmly. "Get some rest tonight. We'll sort out the details tomorrow." True to her word, Sophia helped Sam navigate the necessary steps the next day. Getting replacement identification, which had been lost or stolen long ago, was the first hurdle. Sophia's resources and a call from her lawyer helped expedite the process. She provided him with an advance on his future salary to cover immediate needs and arranged for a small, furnished studio apartment near a bus line that served the warehouse, ensuring he had a stable place of his own rather than staying indefinitely in the hotel. Starting work at the Lane Fine Jewelry Warehouse was daunting for Sam. It was a large, bustling facility filled with complex security protocols and the constant movement of valuable goods. He hadn't worked in a structured environment for years. His new colleagues were initially curious, perhaps wary, knowing only that he was hired directly through the CEO's office. Sam kept his head down and focused on the tasks assigned to him, checking incoming shipments against invoices, carefully sorting items, logging inventory into the digital system, which required learning new software and preparing orders for secure transport. The work was methodical, requiring the attention to detail Sophia had sensed in him. He was quiet but polite, always punctual, and meticulous in his work. He struggled initially with the computer systems, having been offline for so long, but he stayed late, practicing, asking questions hesitantly, determined to learn. The warehouse manager, a gruff but fair man named Bill, watched him closely. Bill valued reliability above all else, and Sam quickly proved himself dependable. Sophia made a point of visiting the warehouse occasionally, ostensibly to review operations, but also to check in on Sam. She didn't hover or single him out excessively, but offered quiet encouragement. "How are you settling in, Sam?" she'd ask during a brief aside. "Let Bill or me know if you need anything." Sam found a quiet satisfaction in the routine, in the feeling of accomplishment at the end of a workday, in earning a paycheck through his own efforts. Having a safe place to sleep, regular meals, and a purpose began to chip away at the heavy cloak of depression that had enveloped him for so long. He started sleeping better, the constant anxiety of street life slowly receding. His colleagues gradually warmed to him. They saw his quiet competence, his willingness to help out, his inherent honesty. When a discrepancy arose in a shipment, it was Sam's careful cross-checking that identified the error, saving the company significant potential loss. Bill grunted his approval, a high compliment from the taciturn manager. Sam wasn't just filling a role, he was becoming a valued member of the team. He was slowly, painstakingly rebuilding his life, one meticulously checked inventory list at a time. Months turned into a year, then two. Sam's quiet diligence never wavered. He didn't just perform his duties. He observed, he learned, he thought about how things could be done better. The warehouse, while secure, had certain logistical bottlenecks and occasional inefficiencies in its tracking system, born from years of gradual expansion. Having mastered the inventory assistant role, Sam started noticing patterns. He saw how certain procedures slowed down the processing of high-value items, increasing their handling time and, therefore, risk. He noticed inconsistencies in how different shifts logged data, creating potential for errors. Hesitantly at first, he began making suggestions to Bill, the warehouse manager. Not complaints, but practical ideas: a revised layout for the sorting area, a standardized checklist for secure packing, a proposal for cross-training staff on different aspects of the digital inventory system. Bill, initially skeptical, recognized the sense in Sam's observations. They implemented a few of his suggestions, and the improvements were tangible: faster processing times, fewer errors. Sophia, during her reviews with Bill, heard about Sam's contributions. Jenkins? Yeah, he's sharp, Bill conceded. Quiet guy, but he sees things others miss. Got a good head for logistics. Sophia encouraged Sam's growth. Seeing his aptitude for systems and organization, she offered to pay for him to take evening courses in logistics and supply chain management at the local community college. Sam eagerly accepted, absorbing the material, applying classroom concepts to his daily work. His demonstrated competence and growing knowledge didn't go unnoticed. When an assistant manager position opened up due to a retirement, Bill recommended Sam for the role without hesitation. Sophia readily approved the promotion. Sam embraced the increased responsibility, overseeing shifts, training new hires, and working closely with Bill on optimizing workflow. Another year passed. Sam excelled as assistant manager. He had a calm, steady leadership style that earned him the respect of the warehouse crew. He implemented further improvements, streamlining processes, enhancing security protocols in coordination with the company's security director. When Bill eventually announced his own retirement, there was only one logical successor. Sophia called Sam to her office. "Sam," she said, smiling warmly, "Bill is retiring next month. He strongly recommended you to take over as warehouse and logistics manager. The board agrees. The position is yours if you want it." Sam felt a surge of emotion: disbelief, gratitude, pride. Manager. It was a position, a level of stability and respect he hadn't allowed himself to even dream of just a few years prior. He had earned it, not through charity, but through his own hard work, dedication, and rediscovered potential. "Yes, Sophia," he said, his voice thick but steady. "Thank you. I want it." Several years later, the Lane Fine Jewelry Warehouse ran like a well-oiled machine under Sam Jenkins's management. He commanded respect, not through loudness, but through competence, fairness, and a quiet authority that came from knowing the operation inside and out. He had implemented state-of-the-art tracking systems, optimized delivery routes, and fostered a team environment built on mutual trust and efficiency. Sam himself was transformed. He lived in a comfortable apartment in a quiet neighborhood, the bleakness of homelessness a distant, though never forgotten, memory. He dressed neatly, carried himself with a calm confidence, and had even reconnected with a few old acquaintances from before his life unraveled. The deep sadness in his eyes had softened, replaced by a thoughtful, steady gaze. He volunteered at a local shelter on weekends, offering a listening ear and quiet encouragement to others facing hardship, sharing his story when appropriate, a living testament to the possibility of change. Sophia often visited the warehouse, not just as CEO, but as a friend. Their relationship had evolved into a unique bond, built on the foundations of a shared childhood memory, mutual respect, and profound gratitude. They talked easily about work, about life, about memories both old and new. Sam never forgot the chance Sophia had given him, and Sophia never forgot the integrity Sam had shown, both as a boy and as a man down on his luck. One crisp autumn afternoon, similar to the day they reconnected years ago, Sophia was in the warehouse discussing upcoming holiday season logistics with Sam. As they concluded their meeting near the loading docks, Sophia glanced down at the simple gold band on her finger. It gleamed softly under the fluorescent lights. Still wearing it, Sam noted quietly, following her gaze. Sophia smiled. Always, she confirmed. It's a reminder. A reminder of her parents' love, certainly, but also a reminder of loss and unexpected recovery. A reminder of a small kindness offered decades ago in a schoolyard and the profound ripple effect it had created. A reminder that integrity could endure through the harshest circumstances, and that second chances, when offered with belief and coupled with determination, could truly change a life. Sam Jenkins, the capable manager standing beside her, was living proof. Kindness, repaid across the years, had truly come full circle.